Today we're going to take a look at Gilbert Arenas, one of the most forgotten superstars in NBA history. And yes, I know Arenas had that gun incident in the locker room, but that's not the main reason why his career ended so quickly. I will talk about that later though. But first, let me give you guys some context on who this guy really is. For a few years, he was a top 5 scorer in the league and incredibly exciting to watch. In 3 seasons from 2004 to 2007, Gilbert Arenas was a 3-time All-Star, 3-time All-NBA, and put up averages of 28 points, 4 rebounds, and 6 assists with 2 steals per game. And he did all of this between the ages of 23 and 25. Arenas hasn't even reached his prime yet, and he was putting up numbers, receiving accolades, and playing basketball like he was an NBA legend. In the 2006 to 2007 season, Arenas had an average offensive box score plus-minus of 7. That was the highest in the entire NBA, even higher than guys like Dwayne Wade, Steve Nash, Kobe, and LeBron. So according to this stat, Arenas was the most valuable offensive player in the league for that season. That's really impressive. In his career, he's had some very memorable moments, but there were 2 moments that stood out from the rest. The first one was the 2006 playoff matchup against a young LeBron James and the Cavs. Gilbert and the Wizards lost the series in 6 games, but he averaged a ridiculous 34 points per game in that series, and matching LeBron point for point. Around this time, Arenas started getting nicknames like Agent Zero or Hibachi, referring to how quickly he heats up on the court. The second moment was on December 17, 2006. Arenas dropped 60 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists against Kobe Bryant and the Lakers. The Wizards won that game 147 to 141, and it was one of the best games in that season. Keep in mind, Arenas did all of this before the age of 25, so he wasn't even in his prime. After hearing all of these ridiculous things about Gilbert Arenas, you might be thinking, how on earth did his NBA career suddenly fall off? Well, it first started on April 4th, 2007. In a game against the Charlotte Bobcats, small forward Gerald Wallace drove to the basket for a layup. But when he was landing, he collided with Arenas and injured his left knee. Right when it happened, everyone knew it was pretty bad. Arenas was grimacing in pain as he was walking into the locker room. One day later, it was diagnosed that he had a lateral meniscus tear and needed arthroscopic surgery to repair it. Usually meniscus tears aren't that bad, and Arenas was only supposed to miss 2 or 3 months. This meant that he had to sit out for the 2007 playoffs, but that's alright. He was really young at the time and his body should recover pretty quickly. After taking the summer to rehab his knee, he should have been healthy by the time the 2007 to 2008 season started. Fast forward to the 2007 to 2008 season, and it started off really well. In the first game of the season, Arenas scored 34 points and it looked like he never missed a beat. But unfortunately, less than a month into the season on November 21st, 2007, he was diagnosed with a partial meniscus tear on the same exact knee, so he had to get a second surgery to repair it. He also had to get excess fluids drained from the knee multiple times in that month. It was clear that Arenas was starting to get really upset, but he still had hopes of returning to the player he once was. After returning from his second knee surgery in April, Arenas had some good games, but he was still having some knee issues. The same knee that was supposed to be repaired twice already was still giving him trouble and discomfort, and it wasn't responding like how he thought it would. Whether it was a problem with his rehab or playing too aggressively, or maybe the doctors just messed up on the surgery. We don't know, but there was definitely something wrong. However, even though it looked like Arenas was falling into the category of superstars who never bounced back after a knee injury, the Wizards still offered him a 6-year, $111 million contract in the summer of 2008. And in hindsight, this contract was awful, as Arenas never returned to his all-star form. But at the same time, it definitely made sense at the time, even with his injuries. The Wizards can't just give up on a 26-year-old 3-time All-Star who led them to the playoffs for 3 straight seasons. Unfortunately, Arenas would be stuck with even more bad news. On September 17, 2008, right before the start of the 2008 to 2009 season, Arenas had to get surgery again to repair the same exact knee. This was his 3rd knee surgery in 1.5 years. That's ridiculous. As a result, he only managed to play 2 games in the entire 2008-9 season, since he was experiencing too much pain in his knee. Now let's fast forward to the 2009-2010 season. Arenas started off the season playing very inconsistently, but he still put up some good numbers. He was averaging 23 points and 7 assists per game, which is pretty good, until he ran into a different issue, which I mentioned at the beginning of the video. One of his teammates at the time was Javaris Crittenton. It started on a regular plane ride, as Arenas and Crittenton were playing cards and gambling. This led to a small dispute between the two of them, but it supposedly cooled off really quickly. But according to Caron Butler, who was a member of that Wizards team, there was still some beef between them, and the next day, Arenas showed up to the locker room with 4 guns in his locker. Arenas told Crittenton to pick the gun that he will shoot him with. And Crittenton responded by pulling out his own handgun, already cocked and loaded, and pointed it directly at Arenas. So of course, the police were called to the scene, and eventually Arenas got suspended by the NBA for the rest of the 2009-10 season, after playing only 32 games. At this point, his NBA career was basically done. Up until now, he barely played any games at all for the past 3 seasons. The multiple knee surgeries, the gun incident, and suspension were just too much for Arenas to recover from. In the 2010-2011 season, he played only 21 games for the Wizards before getting traded in the middle of the season to the Orlando Magic. And normally, this would be a good situation. Playing alongside Dwight Howard in his prime would have been amazing. But that wasn't the case because Arenas had already regressed too much and wasn't even a decent player anymore. So for the rest of the season, he averaged just 8 points per game on 34% shooting. And remember, he was only 29 years old, but he was obviously nowhere near his former self. I would compare Arenas' situation with Derrick Rose's, but recently, Rose has still been a decent player. I've actually got a fun piece of trivia for you guys. Before the 2011-2012 lockout-shortened season began, Gilbert Arenas was the first player ever to be waived under the Amnesty clause. This clause was implemented in the 2011 lockout, and it allows a team to get rid of a player who severely underperforms his contract and not let his contract affect their salary cap. And as we know earlier, Arenas signed a 6-year, $111 million deal in 2008, and he was still getting paid a ridiculous amount. After getting amnestied by Orlando, Arenas joined the Memphis Grizzlies and played only 17 games in the 2011-12 season. And unfortunately, up until now, that was the last season Arenas has played in the NBA. He basically retired at the age of 30. We always talk about how former superstars like Derrick Rose or Dwight Howard saw their careers fall off really quickly. But I feel like more people need to know about Gilbert Arenas. In his prime, he was as good as anyone else in the league. This whole story shows how a player's career can suddenly go downhill just because of one injury. It wasn't even a major injury when it happened, but sometimes rehab and surgery doesn't go as well as planned. And situations like this happen more frequently than you might think, not just to former superstars but to regular players as well. And that was the story of the downfall of Gilbert Arenas. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.